Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Hello everyone, we are Group 2 and today we are going to present about anti-corruption and good governance. Corruption is a serious issue that can harm a country's economy, reduce public trust, and slow down development. Therefore, it is very important to understand how to prevent corruption and implement good governance in both public and private sectors. In this presentation, we will explain the definition of corruption, its impact, and how good governance can be applied as a solution to create a transparent, accountable, and fair system. We hope this presentation will help you better understand the importance of fighting corruption and promoting good governance. Thank you, and let's begin our presentation. So first, I'm gonna talk about definition of corruption. Before that, let me introduce you myself. My name is Cinta Triza Meidiani with student ID number 2501-3010-372. So definition of corruption is the abuse of power, position, or trust given to an individual for personal or group interests in ways that violate the law and harm society or the state. This act is usually carried out by those who have authority, but instead of using it properly, they misuse it to gain certain benefits. In essence, corruption involves the misuse of power or position, the intention to obtain personal or group advantages, and action that go against legal rules and social norms. As a result, corruption not only causes financial losses to the state but also hinders development and reduces public trust in the government and related institutions. The next one is gonna explained by my friends. Thank you.
Next off is the characteristics of corruption. First, it always involves more than one person. It's also generally secretive and has elements of obligation and mutual benefit. The people behind them usually attempts to hide behind legal justifications and also hold power or authority and influence over those certain decisions. Corruption is also always involves some sort of deception and involves contradictory dual functions. Uh, this characteristics describes how the people involved in corruption hold two conflicting roles at the same time, both as someone who is supposed to uphold that duty and also someone who is violating it. And corruption is also based on deliberate intention to violate public interest over that person's own interest. And second to last, every form of corruption is some sort of betrayal of trust, usually to the public, and also violates the norms of duty and accountability. There are seven types of corruption. The first one would be corruption that harms state finances, which is the loss of money, securities, or goods that are tangible and is at a definite amount, resulting from unlawful acts committed intentionally or negligently. The second one would be bribery, which is the act of giving something to someone in return for doing something else and is in violation of their duties and responsibilities. Third is embezzlement and fraud, which is the theft of money, property, or valuables by someone entrusted with the responsibility to safeguard and manage them. Fourth would be extortion, which is the usage of violence or threat of violence, and could also be the reveal of private information that could damage a person's honor or reputation in return for cooperation or information. The fifth type of corruption is nepotism, which is the act of prioritizing family members or close associates in decision making, particularly regarding appointments to positions without considering their competencies. The sixth kind of corruption is conflict of interest in procurement, which occurs when a person with authority in the procurement of goods or service has a personal interest that could influence the objectivity of their decision making. And last but not least, gratuities, which are the use of gifts, money, or favors given to public officials with the intent to influence their duties.
Okay, for the next subchapter about prevention of corruption, I will present the material. So guys, my name is Safira Salsabilla, student of accounting at UPN Veteran Jawa Timur with NPM 250130100362. Now, let's begin. First of all, we need to know the definition of prevention of corruption. Prevention of corruption means taking steps before corruption ever happens. Prevention is better than the punishment because it is always easier to stop it early than to fix the damage later. Because once corruption spreads, the cost and impact are much heavier. Now that we know what prevention means, let's see why it is so important. Corruption destroys trust, weakens institutions, and harms society. Recovery is so slow and expensive. That's why prevention is key. It protects resources, ensures fairness, and builds integrity in government. So, how does the government actually prevent corruption? Let's look at the strategy. So, the government applies several strategies, all rooted in Pancasila values. These include cultivating national spirit, fair recruitment, raising awareness, improving welfare, and monitoring assets. Let's go through each of these strategies one by one. First of all is cultivating national spirit. This strategy focuses on promoting unity and patriotism through Pancasila education. It reminds people that rejecting corruption is part of loving the country and protecting its future. Next, let's talk about recruitment. Recruitment of civil servants must be fair and open. Merit-based selection prevents bribery and nepotism and builds trust in institutions by ensuring competent officials are chosen. Besides recruitment, awareness campaigns are also important. Awareness program helps communities understand the dangers of corruption. They encourage people to resist dishonest practice and to speak up when they see misconduct. Another way to prevent corruption is by improving welfare. By improving welfare and providing fair policies, the government reduces inequality. When people's needs are met, they are less tempted to engage in corruption. Now, let's move to asset monitoring. Officials and citizens are asked to declare their assets. This transparency helps detect irregularities, prevent abuse of power, and strengthens accountability. Prevention is important, but we also need strong enforcement. As you know, guys, that prevention alone is not enough. In Indonesia, the Corruption Eradication Commission or KPK investigates and prosecutes corruption cases. Their work shows that no one is above the law, and punishment creates a deterrent effect for others. Besides enforcement, education also plays a big role. Anti-corruption education is integrated into schools and communities. Teaching value of honesty and responsibility from an early age can help young people grow with integrity and become role models in society. Finally, let's wrap up with the conclusion. In short, prevention is more effective than the punishment. With strategies based on Pancasila, supported by enforcement and education, we can build a clean, fair, and accountable society.
So, I would like to present our topic about corruption from various perspectives in the context of public sector accounting. In this presentation, we will discuss how corruption can be viewed from several perspectives, such as religion, society, culture, law, politics, economics, and Pancasila's values. First, Corruption is a serious issue that affects not only state finances but also society as a whole. In public sector accounting, corruption is closely related to the misuse of public funds, weak accountability, and lack of transparency. It reduces the quality of public services and damages public trust in government institutions. That is why understanding corruption from different perspectives is very important. From a religious perspective, corruption is considered a very unethical and sinful act. In Islamic teachings, corruption is categorized as fasad, which means causing damage or destruction to society. It is also considered a major sin because it violates important values such as justice, honesty, trustworthiness, and responsibility. Religion teaches that every action will be accountable, not only in this world, but also in the hereafter. Therefore, corruption is not only a legal violation, but also a moral and spiritual problem. From the social perspective, corruption has serious consequences for society. It increases poverty because resorts that should help the public are misused. It also creates the social inequality where only certain groups benefit while others are left behind. In addition, corruption reduces public trust in the government. When people no longer trust public institutions, it becomes more difficult to maintain social stability and cooperation. From the cultural perspective, corruption can damage the values and identity of a nation. If corruption is tolerated or ignored, it can slowly become a habit or part of daily life. This normalization is very dangerous because people may start to think that corruption is acceptable. Over time, this weakens values such as honesty, integrity, and responsibility, which are essential for a healthy society. From the legal perspective, corruption is a serious crime that must be handled firmly. Law enforcement plays a key role in preventing and reducing corruption. Strict punishment is important to create a deterrent effect and ensure justice. However, if laws are not enforced consistently, corruption can continue to spread within institutions. Therefore, a strong and independent legal system is essential. From the technological perspective, technology can be both a solution and a risk. On the other hand, technology can improve transparency and accountability through systems such as e-government, digital accounting, and automated reporting. These systems help reduce human error and limit opportunities for corruption. On the other hand, technology can also be misused. For example, through data manipulation or cyber fraud. This is why strong internal control and system security are very important. From the economic perspective, corruption has a negative impact on national development. It discourages both domestic and foreign investment because investors prevent transparent and stable environments. Corruption is also reduces economic efficiency and increases costs. In addition, it creates unequal income distribution, which widens the gaps between different groups in society. From the perspective of Pancasila, corruption clearly contradicts all of its fundamental values. First, the principle of belief in one supreme God, or Ketuhanan Yang Maha Esa, is violated because corruption reflects a lack of faith, integrity, and moral responsibility. It shows that individuals prioritize personal gain over ethical and spiritual values. The second is the principle of just and civil humanity, or kemanusiaan yang adil dan beradab, is not reflected in corrupt actions. Corruption ignores fairness and reduces concern for others, especially those who are most affected by the misuse of public resources. And the third, in the term of the unity of Indonesia or Persatuan Indonesia, corruption prioritizes personal or group interests rather than the collective good. This can weaken national unity and create divisions within society. Fourth, the principle of democracy guided by wisdom in deliberation, or kerakyatan yang dipimpin oleh hikmat kebijaksanaan dalam permusyawaratan perwakilan, is also undermined. Corruption shows a lack of responsibility, and does not reflect decision making based on collective discussion and public interest. Lastly, corruption goes against the principle of social justice for all Indonesian people or keadilan sosial bagi seluruh rakyat Indonesia because it creates inequality and prevents fair distribution of research across society. Therefore, it is clear that corruption is not in line with the core values of Pancasila and must be prevented to uphold this principle. To prevent corruption, several important efforts need to be implemented. First, strengthening supervision system is essential to ensure that all activities, especially in the public sector, are properly monitored and controlled. With effective supervision, potential irregularities can be detected early. Second is transparency and accountability must be improved. When information is open and accessible, and institutions are held responsible for the action, the opportunity for corruption can be significantly reduced. Third, anti-corruption education plays a crucial role. By educating individuals from an early age about honesty, integrity, and ethical values, we can build a strong foundation for a corruption-free society. In addition, strict law enforcement is necessary to create a deterrent effect. Clear and firm legal action shows that corruption will not be tolerated. Finally, the active role of society is very important. Public participation in monitoring, reporting, and promoting integrity can help support the overall effort to prevent corruption.
So next, before we begin, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Alfia Solehah and my student ID number is 2501-301-0364. Today, I will be presenting about good governance, what it means, how it applies in Indonesia, and what progress has been made so far. Thank you for your time and let's get started. So, first, I will explain the definition of good governance. Good governance is a system of development management that is carried out in a responsible and structured way. It is aligned with democratic principle and support an efficient market system. This includes avoiding the misuse of investment funds, preventing corruption both in political and administrative aspects, maintaining budget discipline, and also creating a legal and political framework that support business growth. In general, good governance refers to how decisions are made and implemented in a way that can be accounted for collectively. It is not only the responsibility of the government, but also involves citizen and private sector. So it is basically a collaboration between all parties and management country. Next, I will explain about good governance in Indonesia. In Indonesia, good governance started to be seriously implemented during the reform era. At the time, next, I will explain about good governance in Indonesia. In Indonesia, good governance started to be seriously implemented during the reform era. At that time, there were a major change in government system which demanded a cleaner and more democratic process. Because of that, good governance became one of the main goals of the reform. However, if we look at the development after years or of reform, the implementation of good governance in Indonesia is still not fully successful. There are still many problems such as fraud and budget leakage, especially in financial and management and accounting. These two aspects are actually the main indicator of good governance. Lastly, about the implementation, even though it has not been successful, it does not mean that good governance is violent. The governance is still making effort to improve it, for example, by increasing transparency, strengthening accountability, and improving financial management system. So overall, good governance in Indonesia is still in progress and continues to be developed to achieve better governance in the future. Lastly, about the implementation, even though it has not been successful, it does not mean that good governance is flawless. The governance is still making effort to improve it, for example, by increasing transparency, strengthening accountability, and improving financial management system. So overall, good governance in Indonesia is still in progress and continues to be developed to achieve better governance in the future.